So someone trying to become the next Dom2k, what would you recommend that they do?
Yeah, I would wow, I've never given that any kind of thought. I would 100% not depend on YouTube, I would say. You know, it starts off as a passion for sure, and it's like you will never probably get that first feeling back, I would say, because everything when it's so new, especially once you get some kind of attention when you start, that feeling don't come back. It's impossible. It's one of a kind. So like when you first getting recognized, when you were very first getting like a certain number of views, that type of feeling, I guess not. Just don't chase it. It's not coming back. Keep
Mm.
it fresh, and don't depend on it too early, because that's what will probably ruin the passion for you. You start depending on it now, all of a sudden, a certain number of views isn't enough. A certain number of views per month isn't enough. A certain, certain level of interaction is not enough, and that definitely kind of kills your passion for it. So I would say diversify. Like I probably would have started. I mean, I guess it definitely depends, but I would have probably started diversifying really early. I was doing it probably I was doing just NBA videos for around 2 years. So if I had started, Twitch or something like that alongside that, while while I was getting all the attention as well, could have probably branched off even further. I could have a better video game division right now that doesn't involve anything NBA.
Mm.
But probably just to keep it fresh, would have diversified a little bit earlier, just so you have that option. But yeah, the biggest thing is just keeping the passion for it any way you can, because I guess naturally it's gonna come and go. That's why I wonder about a guy like Chris Move. I don't know how he does it. He's been consistent for like 10 to 14 years or something like that.
For
Just I
real.
don't even like, I can't even recall him taking a break. Like, damn, does he not have normal human functions? Does he not get sad or depressed sometimes? Like he's just always,
Nah, for
always,
real.
always at
Never
it.
on vacation.
Yeah, I've never seen a vacation from it. I'm just like, you know what? I don't necessarily have that in me. Things happen in my life. Sometimes I get emotionally wiped, and I get creatively wiped. I just don't always have it in me to make videos every single day, every single week, and never have a break. It just don't work like that. But yeah, just keep the passion any way you can. Because if you see it, if somebody were out there and they were in my situation where it started to pop off, and then they immediately just went to like depend on it or whatever. I even see that happen with other creators. I see other creators talk about their struggles with it all the time. And I think what it is like they're at a good point. They're at a really strong point, but like their whole life is based off that right now. And so it wrecked their whole mood if one video doesn't do that good, or if a video underperforms or something like that. And that slowly kind of chips away at it. Then next thing you know, you're not passionate about it, and it's a fight. But I've been able to manage it. So yeah, that's what I would say. That's my biggest thing. Keep as much passion for it as you can, because it's supposed to be something you like. The last thing, videos are hard to make. Like the passion will make you forget like you've been sitting editing a video for 3 hours. That takes time and work, and it don't feel that way if you actually like it. But if it feels like you're making something you don't really want to make, or something you're not actually interested in, but you're just doing it for a certain engagement or something like that, that'll eventually that'll take you out of the game probably. So yeah, that's probably what I would say.
Do people notice you out in public?
Yeah, that it doesn't happen frequently, but it's happened a good amount of times over the years. Like even when I was in college, I think some kid noticed me. That was hilarious. I still keep in touch with him sometimes. He was cool. At a Foot Locker, I think, or at the Nike store one time, one of the salesmen recognized me. Chipotle. Yeah, I have for sure been recognized. I've been trying to think of the last time. Sometimes like even mostly when I'm in the gym, like I'll see somebody look at me, but it feels like they don't actually want to say something. I don't know if it's just I don't know. Maybe they recognized me, maybe they didn't. But yeah, it doesn't happen often, but it has happened over the years.
Has it brought in host?
Nah, man. YouTube is like NBA YouTuber. That's not where that comes from. That comes from other sources. But like NBA YouTube is not like a big
Yeah,
hole getter, I guess you call
because
it.
men mostly watch your stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's mostly men. It's like yeah. I don't even talk about it a lot with the women I've hung with or been with. I don't even really talk about it that much. Like it'll come up, but let me interest you in this video about James Harden's analytics. Like it don't. I'll mention it and I'll be like briefly,
I
yeah. It's like everyone, I just tell them I'm like, yeah, I'm an internet kid. They'd be like, what do you do? Like, yeah, I'm just an internet kid, literally. Like I made my money on the internet. That's pretty much it. But yeah, if I was a different kind of YouTuber, like I don't know, like a weightlifting YouTuber or a prank YouTuber, like you probably dip off of that. Like if you're funny and shit like that, you could probably find your way off that. But I don't use it as like it's like a catch.
Got you.
What about your family? You know how certain families they don't think, oh, that's not a real job. Get you a real job, like old school people. Like, have you gotten any of that from family and friends?
No, not they don't tell me that. Not at all. I've gotten nothing but support from people and curiosity. No one's told me to my face, oh, it's not a real job. And it's because like my parents, like they bragged on me more than I've ever been comfortable with. I'm not comfortable at all with praise, but they hype it up. So like if it's my grandmother or something or another person, they still don't really know what it is. But for them, they probably even think I'm more successful at it than I actually am from the way my parents describe it. So I've never had anyone ask me like, "Oh, when are you going to get a real job?" Like that's never happened. I've always grown up in like a supportive family. Nobody's ever said no lame shit like that to me because I've heard other creators say they've gotten that before. And I'm like, fam, that's wild to like have somebody who's supposed to support you say that.
For real. What was your favorite video to make and why?
It was the greatest playoff series of all time. Like that was a lot of fun because that's where it's like the passion and creativity clashes with reality because reality of YouTube is if you take most YouTubers, I would say 90+% of YouTubers don't have the freedom to make what they want or just get creative as they want because they're racing a clock. You're racing a clock to get the next video out, or you're racing an algorithm. So you'll see some channels out there that can just do whatever video they want. Like they could take 2 months and make some real beautiful production, but that's super rare. So the greatest playoff series of all time is one of the rare times I've been able to just sit down and basically like storyboard for videos and be as creative as I want and spend as much time as possible on it. So I was able to finish that. I started that in 2018. I didn't even finish it until last year. I think almost a year ago is when I started posting those again, and that's why I don't like. It took me a mad long time. I just took a break from YouTube and said, okay, I'm gonna finish these and like I'll post these when I'm back. But that's why I don't do those types because like there's a reality to it. It's really hard, especially now. Like with all the other stuff, it's really hard to make stuff like that.
How long would you say on average a video takes for you to make?
Yeah, it's changed over time. Like now, it don't take as long because I've started to put my face in videos, so that like when I record audio, my face is there as well, so I can use that to cover up for a lot of parts where I used to have to find NBA footage for every little thing I said. Sometimes I just show my face now, and that like I can do like an hour or two now, like literally from start to finish, I could do one in an hour or two. But when I started, and like, guys, I'm trying to remember. I made Larry Bird's trash talk video. Depends where you count from. There was videos that took tons of research, and then you got to record the audio. Then you got to go find all the clips. You got to lay all of them. Then you got to mess with the audio again. You got to find the soundtrack. I would say, like, excluding research, it could have taken around like 4 hours probably to make a video. Back when I was like really only doing that, yeah, it could take around 3 or 4 hours, but it totally depends. But the style now makes it easier because, yeah, the type of video I make, it's much easier now.
What's wrong with the Celtics, man?
Hey, man, they're actually doing good these days. I think coming in, yeah, no, they're what's up? No, they've gotten better. I like the trade that they made for Derek White. The defense in this calendar year has picked up quite a bit. I think coming into the season, like Jayson Tatum's having massive struggles. We could not be consistent for a full game. So even on Christmas Day, it was like, okay, for 3.5 quarters, they played Milwaukee so good. And then it just fell apart at the end and they lost a lead. There's been a ton of games this year where I have to look up the stat, but they've lost a lot of close games. So where if they had won, their record, they might be first in the East at the moment. So it had been going bad up to this point, but it's gotten significantly better as of late. They're in the running to get out of the play-in now. And I would also say like one of the problems they would have is Grant Williams. You know, he's shooting the three ball really good this year, but teams will still live with Grant Williams taking an open three before they want Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown getting to that spot. So even if you have a shooter, sometimes they're still defending JB and JT the same way. So that could make it a bit difficult. But yeah, I mean, I'm considering everything that's happened with this season. Like I like where they are right now. It's better than it was like a month and a half ago.
Do you think it's time to break up Tatum and Brown?
I would honestly give it until like the middle of next season, because okay, they rebounded. Like you look at what years have we had together? You go 1 year when Jayson Tatum gets there, they almost made the finals without Kyrie, and then that was really good. 2019, we had entirely too much talent and on top of budding talent, so the chemistry wasn't there. 2020, almost they were, I wouldn't say they almost made the finals, but they were competitive for it, conference finals. You get to last year. God, what happened to us last year? Yeah, we got smacked. That just wasn't a good year. And so you get to where we are now. It's like, okay, they're rebounding this season. I would be happy if they made it to the second round of the playoffs this year. I could live with that, and then see what they can do with the roster in the offseason. Because if you keep bringing back more or less the same team, then it's like, okay, at a certain point, somebody has to go for assets. So like you can really kind of push the needle. So I would say see what they can do this summer, see how next season goes up until like the halfway point, and if it doesn't look like it's going anywhere, then I always say they're never going to trade Jayson Tatum. So when they do, if they ever do decide, like it'll end up being Jaylen Brown probably that they trade. I highly doubt they're ever going to trade JT, and then you try to move the needle that way probably. But yeah, I'm still in a wait and let's see phase. I've thought the end is coming. Like I have thought the end is coming for sure. But yeah, they didn't do it this year, so.
So you're also into Marvel as well, right?
Oh yeah, heavy into Marvel.
What's your Marvel character, favorite Marvel movie? You're a Marvel fan. They're not the best when it comes to shows. I'll definitely give that to DC. DC has the better shows. Marvel has the better movies.
Right. Yeah, and shout out to DC, by the way. Like, I really want them to get it together on the movie front because I know their catalog of characters is just insane. So they could ever get together on the movie front and just take their time. They could really do something there. But favorite Marvel character, I've probably been pretty basic. Like I'm pretty sure I've gone with Iron Man for most of the time. That was just the one that got me into it. I didn't know anything about Marvel when it started, and that's kind of where it started for me. So I don't know. I've never really just sat down and dissected like, man, which one do I really love? But I would probably go with Iron Man, and then I really like the Captain America with Bucky, Winter Soldier. As far as a movie, I really like Winter Soldier. Of course, a lot of the movies now have like built-in advantages with Spider-Man doing what they just did. With Infinity War having everybody, like those movies have just like flat out built-in advantages over every other Marvel movie that exists. But yeah, just without counting some of those that you can't really choose over. I've always liked Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to pick between Brown and Tatum, who would you choose?
If I had to pick between Brown and Tatum, I would still probably end up going with Tatum. That's a big thing within the Celtics fandom because Tatum, obviously, I think is probably more of the face of the franchise. Mm-hmm. But there's stretches like the beginning of the season where Jaylen Brown's flat out better, and people are looking and saying that's the one y'all want to trade, but he's playing better. But JT can be pretty up and down, and when he has it going, I just really feel like his ceiling is probably still higher. Is a thing. So I like they're both pretty solid defensively. JB obviously has improved a lot on the ball and the things that he can do with creation. But I just feel like if you take those two when they're at their best in a couple of years, I'm still banking on Tatum being the best player or having the highest ceiling. That's the guy that I think will be in MVP conversations if Boston ever really gets to that level. I think it'll be because he raised it to that level. So I would still end up just taking Tatum. I'm not going to be the one that traded him away and then he ends up going to win MVP somewhere else.
I wrote about the Celtics and how they should have, in my opinion, broke this up because I think with even these two at their best, as of right now anyway, the best they're going to do is probably Eastern Conference Finals appearance. And that's because I think Jayson Tatum has potential to be a superstar, but Brown is not necessarily, giving him the keys like he should be. Too many nights it looks like Brown, too many nights looks like Tatum. And I think if they were to definitively decide that Tatum is the number one, they will go a lot farther. But I think Brown wants to be the number one too often.
Yeah, well, that's why we. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, why, if I'm playing as good as you or better, why would I come second to you if I'm Jaylen Brown? I can do what you can do. Jayson Tatum are better, so it's either one or the other. But I'm not gonna step down if I can do what you do. And some nights do it better than you can.
Well, that's the issue. I just think with those two, and I kind of agree with what Glass is saying. Is like it always has felt like it's kind of redundant having their skill sets on the squad
Similar,
together. So
right?
there's some teams that can make that work because the two players are so damn good. Like the Clippers would have probably had a championship by now if they could have just been healthy. PG and Kawhi together, at their levels, they are MVP level players, both of them. So you might call their wing scoring redundant, but I don't really know if they get each other's way, and they can raise it to such a level that yeah, if they had been healthy, I think they would have even won last year. With Tatum and Brown, I wonder, can it get to that point? Will it ever get to that point? And so where we are right now, you just call them the bucket brothers because sometimes it just feels like they're taking turns getting buckets, and it's not
Yeah,
diverse enough. So I would also have at some point this season I wouldn't have been mad if they broke it up and just tried a different strategy because there might be a ceiling. Like if we can't the way the salaries are right now and the way the money is, yeah, there might be a ceiling for where we can't get the pieces around them that we need to take it to another level. We might only be able to do conference finals with them before we start aging out or the contracts start becoming an issue or whatever. So
and I think too often the Celtics offense looks way too stagnant. Like
mm.
it just looks like it reminds me a lot of the old OKC, where it's kind of like go Westbrook, go Durant, and they kind of just take turns to go back and forth, rather than having like their offense lacks flow a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean that's what's gotten better this year specifically. With this, literally, when I say this year, I'm talking about 2022. Since the calendar turned, I heard the stat, but I know they're up there in ball movement. They're in the win streak that they even had. Like the ball movement was really good, so that coincided. I think they were playing some bad teams as well here and there, but the ball movement had definitely picked up, and it's like, oh, okay, well, this is what we imagine rather than a JB ISO or JT ISO or a sidestep shot or a step back. This is kind of this is how you get it forward with the group that we have.
How would you improve the roster right now?
Moving the roster right now, pretty much, I think they did what they could during the trade deadline. Like I really like the move to get rid of Richardson for Derek White. You got a second defensive guard that you put next to Marcus Smart, so you shore up the point of attack defense a little bit, which is gonna be interesting in the playoffs. That is gonna be with some of the lineups that they end up running. You get White, Smart, Tatum, and Brown. If you're running those four together, that gets really interesting defensively for some guys. But because of the money and because of the personnel, like to have gotten better to like significantly better, you would have had to trade some guys that you don't want to trade. I didn't want to trade Marcus Smart. I don't want to trade Robert Williams. So if
Mm.
if you really want to shake it up and diversify the roster, those are, and then obviously there's the Jaylen Brown move that hadn't happened yet. If you really want to shake it up, like you really have to shake it up when it comes to Boston. So
Right, right.
but with the way it is and the lineup that they're running and the money being what it is, I'm not really sure there was a move out there this year or that there's a move out there coming up in the summer because I don't even know who the free agents are yet. I'm not sure that there's a move out there that's just like, okay, Boston's fixed, but we'll see what Stevens can do because trades can get pretty creative out here.
What do you think about the James Harden move to Philly? Do you think that moves the needle for them at all?
Yeah, so James Harden to Philly, I thought that they got from under Ben Simmons. That was the best way they could have possibly done it because the other packages we heard were De'Aaron Fox. We were hearing we had even heard some about Tyrese Halliburton, which I thought would have been awesome for them. But to get James Harden in return, that you're not even with him not being as good as he used to be right now. That's still the
Real,
best
for
possible.
real.
Yeah, that's like the best possible thing you could have done. Um, I think the Nets came out good in that. They ended up getting a shooter. It wasn't ever going to just be a straight up swap. And for Philly, they got probably. I hope Harden is back soon because they got 2 months to kind of start figuring some stuff out. They got to figure some things out defensively now. You're throwing Harden into the lineup, which is not a plus for you defensively at all. So a lot falls on Matisse Thybulle. I'm interested to see how that's going to work. Harden and Embiid specifically have a lot of work to do with pick and roll chemistry because that's going to be really big in how far that team goes. I'm not sure if they're going to get it with starting. Let's just assume Harden starts playing with him in March. I don't know a month and a half later in the playoffs that it's at that elite level just yet because neither one of them have really played with a player
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
Harden has not played with the big man that can both roll and pop. Embiid so far hadn't played with a guard that is really going to give him that type of space and also dominate the ball the way that James Harden will tend to. So there's like a lot of adjustments, but yeah, they totally got out of that Ben Simmons situation as best as they possibly could. So you would have liked the straight up swap, but that was kind of necessary. If you're gonna get James Harden, you got to pay.
I I don't me personally I don't see it working all that well because one James Harden to me is a shell of his former self. their two best players are now injury prone. And James Harden has made it very clear that he does not care to move the ball. He prefers to be in an offense where it's more isolated, and that's going to take away from Embiid's touches. So I honestly don't see how that's going to work really.
Well, yeah, that's why I said they got a lot to figure out. And even we know Harden is going to be there next year, too. So that's the thing. What I'm really banking on, I'm not banking on Philly winning this season because specifically what happened with Harden in Brooklyn last year after the hamstring, what we're told is he wasn't able to really do the training that he normally does. That's why he came into the season out of shape. It was mostly rehab. So you get into this offseason where he's actually able to do some work. I assume he's going to come back shooting a bit better than he has this season because it's been the big thing for him. It's just like the Harden shots that you normally get hadn't been falling. It's been really off and on with the explosiveness. So those are the things that I think that you're going to really kind of see take effect, the next season. This season, my jaw would probably hit the floor if Philly came out of the East, given how tough the East is right now and how some of them units have been together. To put that together in a month or two, that would be nuts, especially because, like you said, this is not Houston Harden right now. If it was Houston Harden, we'd be having a different conversation.
Right, very much so.
But yeah, they've both got a ton. And then there's Doc Rivers too, and how long they take to get into their sets sometimes. Like I don't normally go at Doc as a coach, but some of the lineups that he puts out there, yeah, it's gonna be fascinating. I can't wait to see like what they put together in this last run to the playoffs here.
Do you think that the Bulls are a legit contender, or I've heard some people call them kind of the last year's Knicks of this year, where they have a better regular season than most expected, and then fizzle on the playoffs?
Yeah, the last year's Knicks is definitely not the comparison I would go with at all. Not even close. I remember they were good, and the big thing with them is that their defense ended up carrying them a lot that year. So you had the defense going, and then you had All-Star Randall. And when you get to the playoffs, defense by itself is just not enough. And so they were able to defend Randall in a way that, damn near exposed him. Like he hadn't really come back from that. He's on a stretch lately, but that was, they got packed up quicker than anybody expected. But so Chicago, no way. Chicago doesn't have those problems. DeRozan's having the best season of his career right now. Certified, he might be all NBA. You sit on your all NBA teams, all NBA. With Lonzo Ball and Caruso, with what they do with defense, the pick and roll between Vooch and DeRozan, they just have so much going for them. I would still say they're like contenders to get out of the East. Like championship contenders implies you're going to beat one of the West teams. And so that's where I still say, okay, can I see Chicago beating Golden State or the Suns in a series? That's basically what it comes down to. I couldn't see them beating either of those squads yet. I don't think they're at that level. But getting out of the East could for sure happen. What I'm just most interested to see, and I keep bringing this up, maybe you can say I don't know why it would change, but bro, the shots that DeRozan is taking are nuts. I have to see those go in the playoffs because these are shots that is just straight like triple threat, jab, spin, and the shot is still contested, but it's falling right now. They're really tough shots, and he's creating space sometimes in tougher ways. But I wonder, like, can you get, can that be the main diet of shots that gets you, out of this Eastern Conference? I just wonder because I'm not really with the cynical takes of is DeRozan going to collapse in the playoffs, but it's just like, man, these are really, 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 really tough shots that he's making right now, and he's perfected them. Go ahead.
The playoffs should be real interesting.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially in the Eastern Conference. It's nuts right now. Then in the West, I'm interested to see what Memphis does, being in that third seed. I'm interested in their second round because they have to get out of the first round this year. Like third seed and what they've done with Ja, fringe MVP candidate, like they have to get out of the first round this year. I'm just interested in their second round once they run into, prospectively, the Warriors or Phoenix.
Well, that's all I got. You have any questions there, Prince? Is it? All right.